In part number 4 of this series I talked about the subject of the Abomination of Desolation. Hopefully you have already taken in part number 4. It will help a great deal, because the symbolism makes much more sense when you can compare one part with another part. Just as a reminder, refer to Isaiah 28 verses 9 to 13. It is important to build a foundation before you can build the house. In Matthew 24 verse 15 Jesus tells his disciples, "Therefore when you see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains." Now here is the problem. I really don't like to enter into argument concerning the pre-tribulation rapture doctrine, which is contrary to the doctrine of the second coming of Jesus in the clouds of heaven. However, there is a problem with pre-tribulation rapture doctrine. It makes it impossible for Christians to heed the warning for the abomination of desolation. In addition, those who adhere to the pre-tribulation doctrine theory do not pray as Jesus directed in Revelation 24 verse 20. And it also keeps Christians from being warned about the image of the beast, referred to in Revelation 13. If you believe in the pre-tribulation rapture doctrine, feel free to turn off this video. However, I'm just going to give some pointers to show that Christians do indeed experience the abomination of desolation. And they also experience the image of the beast. First, notice in Matthew 24 verse 15 that Jesus told his disciples that when they would see the abomination of desolation, that they should flee. I won't get into the fleeing part. You can refer to part number 4 if you like. Then in Matthew 24 verse 21, Jesus said that at the time you see the abomination of desolation, it will be the time of great tribulation. Now here's the problem. If you accept the doctrine of pre-tribulation rapture, then you are told that you will be raptured prior to the abomination of desolation, and prior to the great tribulation. However, first compare Matthew 24 verse 21 and Matthew 24 verse 22. These verses show that the time of the great tribulation has to be shortened. And Jesus said the time is shortened for the sake of God's elect. Now, I know that those who teach the pre-tribulation rapture doctrine teach that the elect of God are only the Jews. However, take a look at some of the scriptures concerning the elect of God. Colossians, a letter from Paul to the Gentiles, states in Colossians 3 verse 9 that these Gentiles he is writing to of Colossae are Christians. And in verse 12 he refers to them as the elect of God. In 2 Timothy 2 verse 10, Paul, who is writing to Timothy, tells him that he, Paul, endures all things for the elect's sake. Paul's ministry was to the Gentiles. He is referring to his ministry to the Gentiles, who he refers to as the elect. Now look at Matthew 24 verse 22 and Mark 13 verse 20, which show that the time of the great tribulation will be shortened for the sake of God's elect. Certainly, if we who are not Jews are the elect of God, then the time of the great tribulation will be shortened for our sake. And here's the interesting thing. If the great tribulation is shortened for the sake of the elect of God, and we non-Jews are also the elect of God, then the great tribulation occurs when we are here. We will be experiencing the great tribulation. Therefore the rapture into the clouds of heaven cannot take place prior to the great tribulation. And in addition to this, notice that Jesus is giving direction to his followers. He is not giving directions for those who are rejecting him. Looking up all the scriptures that use the word elect will be helpful to understanding this. I'm not trying to spell everything out. If you're a student of the Bible, you can do the research needed to follow through. To sum this up, there is probably no better set of verses to show that there are not two separate resurrections of God's people. Revelation 20 verses 4 to 6 show that there is a first resurrection that takes place, and that no one else is resurrected until after the 1,000-year reign of Christ. A pre-tribulation rapture theory suggests more than one resurrection of God's people. In fact, there are those who suggest that the first resurrection, referred to in Revelation 20, is not the only first resurrection. However, they say there are 7 resurrections, and all 7 of the resurrections are the first resurrection. I find it hard to comprehend that each of the 7 resurrections are first. To me, if there is a resurrection, and then another resurrection, they can't both be first. Neither can 7 resurrections all be first. But then, you'll have to figure that out for yourself. I don't like to argue points of Scripture. I'm just giving you some things that maybe you can use to search out the answers you are looking for. I'll just leave you with some scriptures. You can pause the video to copy them if you want.